Peace, chiefs and deers. It's Bronzebird, formerly known as Brownbird, here with another video. Before I begin, like and subscribe. So today's video is just going to be more or less an analyzation, observation on my behalf of being a so-called African American, or I describe myself as a North American Negro. And this is the thing. I have no problem with the Afro diaspora, whether you come from the Caribbean or other places around the world and identified as so-called black or the melanated nations. I get very excited for knowing new things I haven't learned before about other nations out there that would be described as melanated or black if they was to come to the American homeland or America in general, more specifically North America or the United States. It's been this conversation for a long time, especially with Black History Month, where there's just a lot of, I would say, not necessarily problems, but a lot of conflict that comes into being quote unquote black, where there's different variations of being black. More times than not, when it comes to the idea of Black History Month, usually it's always paying homage to the idea of the mother Africa, and Africa is the homeland. Now in 2021, and for the last couple of years, that conversation seems to be different, where you have a lot of people who uphold things like the Hebrew Israelites, or people who uphold things like saying that America is the old world and the inhabitants that are so-called African Americans are the true people of this land. This is not no debate on my behalf. I am just giving an analyzation to this conversation as a so-called African American. My parents being both so-called African American. I have nothing against people who is of another nation. I have no problem with that. It's just a conversation comes in where I would like to have some feedback from people who are so-called African American. You know, things that come up like not having a flag, not having a culture, or when it comes to Black History Month, a lot of people don't understand that a lot of your ancestors might have not been so-called African Americans, but instead might have been of Caribbean background, African background, and whatever have you. The confusion of being called a so-called African American, where some people rightfully know that they are Aboriginal Americans, they are American Indians, certain people who know they're Hebrew Israelites, and shout outs to the people who know the Hebrew Israelites type of way of living, in which I would be from the tribe of Judah. This is my thing. It becomes not necessarily a confusion, but the conquest of the so-called African American trying to get to know who they are in this world, what their true identity is a conversation that needs to be spoke about more. And of course, other conversations that come in about being biracial and all these different things. So if you are one of those people who's stuck in that conquest of trying to get to know yourself, I would like for you to comment your memories and what is it like to be a so-called African American. Not that it is a division tactic that I'm trying to promote on this page, but because it piques my curiosity to know what is your thought process, especially of trying to get to know yourself and find out who you are as a so-called African American such as myself. And y'all know that I don't go by the designation of being an African American due to the 14th Amendment that happened with the U.S. government, signed off by Bill Clinton in 1993 and promoted by Jesse Jackson since 1988. With that being said, please give your thoughts in the comment section about what you think. And even if you aren't a so-called African American, why don't you give your thoughts and opinions about how you feel in the conversations you've had with certain so-called African Americans or people who is of the melanated diaspora, whether it be Caribbean, African, or other places around the world where so-called black people have this conversation on a daily. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Peace.